Hi guys, welcome to another session. Hope you're okay and that you have watched the last session and you practiced it so that you be ready for this one. And if you haven't, please go and watch that or practice it, because if you want to learn everything, you need to move on step by step and gradually. All right, let's begin. In the last session, in the previous session, we learned how to work on our columns in both Y, X, and Y course. Now we are going to work on the axes and their labels, and after that we are going to work on the outskirts walls. Okay, now let's begin. Okay, to work on axes, we have two approaches. First, we have a usual one, and we have plugged in. Plug-in is a really good method which helps us with our speed. Before we work with plug-in, we are going to talk about the usual method. We're going to work with a usual method to understand how we used to do this before the introduction of plug-in, and after that, we are going to work with plugin itself. All right, assume that we want to label these columns up here. Before plugin, we used to use a line to actually draw a line like this in a particular distance. Then to draw the axis, we could just copy this line like this. Then if I wanted to add a label, I had to use the circle command. I know we haven't talked about this one yet, but it's not something difficult. CE, then we could just draw a circle like this with a random radius. It's not that important because we just want to get familiar with it. Then we needed to add a text, so T enter. Let's type down A, for example. Then after that, we could just move this to the center of the circle. We could change the scale by SC enter, SC command, like this. After setting the text in the center of the circle, we could just copy the label on the other columns like this. And we usually use letters for X course and numbers for Y course. And after we copied the labels, we could have changed the letters like this. And remember, we use capital letters. Okay. All right, this was how we used to work before plugin. You might say that it is not difficult, but it's kind of time consuming. I mean, it's actually time consuming. It's extremely time consuming. You have to do a lot of things. Work on a circle, work on a text, then copy it on the columns. And overall, yeah, it is extremely time consuming. But now we are going to see how we can do this a lot easier and faster by using plugin. Okay, to use plugin, first you need to download the app, for example, like this. Then you'll have this zip file which you need to extract. So we need to extract this file, all right? After that, this folder would appear on your monitor that you can install the app in it, and the installation process is not a difficult thing. It's just you can just click on install and the app would be, then you can start working with the app. Okay, let's go on and install the app. Let's start. First, actually, you need to allow the app to be installed, and after that, you can just close this. Okay, now let's start working with it. So let's go on and open up AutoCAD. But before it starts, it asks you that about the new item that you have installed, and if you want to use this all the time. So yeah, you can click on load always, and it won't ask you this again. Now if you click on add ins, you can see your plugin here, Gridline plugin, that you can use in your work from now on. Alright, so far we have found out that we can use plugin if you want to work on Access, and we learned how to install the item and how to find it in AutoCAD. Right now we are going to start working with it. Let's delete all these Access and let's see how we can speed up our work using plugin. Again, let's enter add ins. Then we can activate Gridline. And down here, again, we can see some subcategories which we are going to talk about. The first item here is labeling. It's about labeling, and it wants to know whether we want to use a letter in our label or a number. So we want to work on a X-course axis, so we just put it on a letter. The next item is about the size that we are going to work with in our label, because we are working in metric units, so we can just put it on 1. Yeah, 1 is enough. And then place. In here we can select the location of our label, for example at the start or at the end or both. For example, we want it to be at the start, so we can select start for now. And if you ever want it to be at the end, you can select end, or even you can select both of them. Don't worry, we are going to set some examples so you'll understand them better. The next item is extension. It works on the offset or the distance between your labels from where you click first. We can, for example, put this one on 5 meters. Okay, next item is frame. Grid label frame radius. It controls the radius of your circle. You can put the same number that you have used for your text in your label. For example, it was 1. Yeah. And now you can easily go ahead and click on the columns to create their axis just like this. And another one for B, just with 2 clicks. Okay, now let's go on and check the rest of the items here. Okay, let's put the label on 1. Then actually let's do some examples. Then we're gonna go on and work on the axis. Put the size on 1 as well, then place this time on both sides, and extension here on 10. And again we can put the frame on 1 as well. And now if we click on this, and then at the end we can see that we will have our axis with a label on both sides. And if you close down this command, you're gonna have to do the settings all over again. Alright, so far we learned how we can draw our axis using the usual method and Gridline plugin, and we got familiar with plugins, different items. Oh, and this distance that we put here, let me just talk about this real quick. This 5 meter distance, this is actually the extension line, which is the distance between your first click or that column and your label. The next one was 10 meters. Let's see if it is in fact 10 meters. Yeah. So this was the extension that I needed to explain more. Alright, these were some examples. Let's delete them and let's start working on the axis for real this time. If you want to put all the labels in one line, you gonna have to try to set them up based on the first row that we have here. To help you do that, you can easily just draw something like a reference line over here, like this. Now you can easily draw your axes based on this. So now we're going to start working, and we're going to set the extensions based on this line here. If we were to work based on this column here, for example, we would have different distances, and it would have been kind of difficult. But now it's going to be quite easy, as you're going to see. And remember, you can use this technique when you have different numbers of columns in your plan, like this. So let's go to add in, then grid line activated, then do the settings, label A, then size 1. For place, we can just set just to start, extension 5. Okay. And again, frame should be the same as text and size 1. And now let's just click on the column. And yeah, we just made a mistake here. We were supposed to work on the from the reference line, but we worked on the column. So you should be pay attention to this completely. Again, we do all the things, all the settings. Okay, size 1 as the text. Place start, extension 5 meters, and frame or radius again 1, the same as text. And this time we're going to start from the reference line up to down here. About these empty spaces that we can see here in the plan, these are some rooms that we have here. Remember, this is not the first floor. This is actually the second floor, and you can actually work on the first floor's columns and axes yourself as a practice. So again, let's draw another line from the reference line like this. Then the next one, again, to down here to this column. Now D, all the way down here. Now the next column. Oh, as you can see here, we actually just missed one. So we need to restart the command. But this time, we need to set the text from the next label. This was actually a happy mistake because right now we can find out that how we can solve these problems. Guys, you can actually remove this reference line and work with an auxiliary one. So let's just delete this one, and let's see how we can work with those green auxiliary lines that we had in object snap tracking. So I'm just trying to explain everything in a way that you won't face any kind of you can say surprises when you are working in a project. Let's just activate the grid line again and redo the settings, but there is a point here. This is very important. You have to put the label on E because you have already put the labels up to D. And now the rest of the settings. Okay, place start, then extension 5, and frame is 1. Okay, we said we're going to work with the help of the auxiliary lines. So let's just use this, and then we can just click here. And the label is E, it's not A again. Next one, use the auxiliary line again and click down here. Okay, next take a look at here. When we have two columns this close to each other, it means that we have some kind of a gap here. So let's just draw its axis, and you can actually use F8 to make sure that you're drawing a straight vertical line. And as you can see up here, we have some kind of a collision between these two labors. Don't worry, we're going to talk about it later. Okay, next axis. Let's go down here with F8. Okay. Next one. And remember, you should always draw your axes in one direction. Don't just suddenly change the direction. If you do that, one of the problems that might appear is that the extension line could appear down here, for example, and you'll face a big problem, you can say. Okay, let's move on to the next column, next axis, like this. So I'm not gonna do all of them because I'm sure you have learned this completely. Just let me do this last one. Okay. To control your auxiliary line, you have to do a zoom out to make sure that it is completely in your viewport. Okay, so we went on up to M. You can do the rest yourselves. And now we are going to begin working on the axis in Y course. So let's see what we can do. First of all, we're going to set the extension lines and overall the labels based on this column, this line here. And I have to pay attention completely here so I won't make any mistakes. So first, activate grid line. Then down here, put the label on numbers. We want numbers right now. Size 1, place start, and extension, the same as before, 5. And frame would be 1 again. So again, now pay attention. This is not my first row. This one is here. So let's try to use our auxiliary line. Let me just set it right. Okay. And now let's draw. Click here and here. And this is the first label, 1. Then the second one. Okay. The third one. As you can see, we can do this. We can set the axis quite faster than when we used to work with the usual method. And honestly, if you think about it, it's kind of fun too. So the next one. Okay. Quite easy. And I'm just gonna complete this side because we don't have as many axes as we had in the X course. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna go on and close down the command now because we are done with the axes, and you can see our labels up here from A to M and down here from 1 to 9. Now what we can do here is we can work on the layers. We could have done this before we start working on the axes, but now it's not actually so different. We can just move this axis that we have drew to the layers that we want. Let's see how we can do this. So, if you remember, in the last session, we actually created this layer called dime and axis here, but we didn't draw these axes in that layer. So let's just select them. Let's just select them all with all the layer labels. And from up here in this box, we can easily move them to their own layers. But there's a point here. Pay attention. If you draw another axis here, it would be drawn in a 0 layer because the axis layer is not yet activated. So we can press LA, and in here we can do a double click on the layer that we want. For example, here, diamond axis. And after that, our layer would get activated. And if we draw something, it would be saved in that layer. So overall, you can either activate the layer that you want to draw in first, or you can draw first and then move everything to the layer that you want. Now let's talk about another command. Again, a very important one, which again can help you to work a lot faster and do better modifications and adjustments in your work. For example, we don't like these extensions that we used here, and now we want to change them. Let's see what we can do. The command that we can use here is called stretch. With this command, we can stretch any kind of shape that we have in any kind of direction that we want. Let's give you an example. This is our rectangle with a kind of offset. I know we haven't talked about offset yet. Just assume that this is kind of a wall. Okay, and now let's say that we want to stretch this wall in some kind of a direction. For example, up, down, I don't know, right, left, anywhere that we want. If you take a look at up here in this box in modifiers, you can see the stretch icon here, exactly up here in the box. But as we said before, we are not going to work with icons. We want to use shortcut keys. If you just press S, you can immediately see the command stretch. Okay, what is important in this command and should be considered is the way that you select things from center to the right or to the left. For example, if we select from here towards center like this, our shape would be stretched towards the right side. And if we do it like this, the shape would be stretched towards left side. Let's see how we can do this. So select our shape like this, and after that we need to set a distance. You can either do a click drag like this, or you can set a distance. For example, let's say 10 meters. Now let's do a stretch, another stretch up here. Stretch upwards. Now this side. So you can use this command, you can use stretch to adjust your shapes and drawings whenever you want it, or you can do some modifications whenever you felt you need modifications. And overall, you can change the shapes of your drawings easily. So this is very useful and very helpful. Now let's say that this extension that we set here, this 5 meter distance that we have here is too much, and we want to reduce it. For example, we want to reduce it to 4 meters. So select like this. Then you need to select, after selection, you need to press space to enter it, and after that you can click wherever you want in your workspace just to set a distance. You just need to move your mouse in Y course. If you move your mouse down, it would go down. If you move it up, it would go up. Or you can type down your distance, for example, 1 meters. And if you check, we have exactly 4 meters. Now for this side, again, as enter, select, enter, and this time we just need to move our mouse to in X course, like this. And just like this, you can do some more modifications after you're done drawing. Now, if you remember, we had another problem here, the collision between these two labels. This happens when we have some columns too close to each other, and which creates this kind of gap between two buildings. Now, let's see what we can do to prevent this problem or how we can solve it. The first thing you should do here is you should try to draw a line here with some distance. For example, here we can use 1.2 meters. Then we need to select the label that we want. Here it's G, and remember these are not something new. So just select it. And then we can use the command of move and enter to move the circle and the label inside it to here. Now again, for this side, use line. What was the distance? Yeah, it was 1.2 meters. Then select your label and just move it here. Now, if you take a look at here, you can see that we have another collision, this time between E and F. So we have to reduce the length of our line. For now, let's just reduce it to 1 meters. Now select. I guess we should reduce it a little bit more. Let's try 80 cm this time. Then move the label. Yeah, it's better. Then for this one, we can again reduce the line, the length of the line to 1 meters and move the circle here. Very easy, nothing is ruined, nothing is mixed up, and our axes are okay. And now it's time to save your work. Remember, always try to save your work as much as you can. For example, every a few minutes, so that if anything happened, you don't have to start your work from the beginning. Or you can do something else. You can just go to your options and you can just activate your automatic save. And we actually talked about this in a previous session. If you just activate this item once, you don't have to somehow be worried about saving. It's gonna save your file automatically. Alright, now we are done with the first part of working on axes. We're gonna start the second part right now. Yeah, sure. We drew the axes, but we drew them with regular line, but we have a particular line for such things. So we have to set them in their own particular line type. To work on the settings that we have for axis line types, first we need to go up here in this box, and then you can see that we have this item called properties. Through this, you can control and manage all of your drawings. Some of the items here are color, thickness, and line type that you can select for your lines. If you open up line type, you can see that we already have some options by layer, by block, and by continue. Okay, for now, we do not need any of these options that we have here. So we can click on others, and in this window, we can select the line type that we want. Let's see how. If you click on load here, you'll open up a new window which contains many different line types which you can choose from. For example, some straight lines, dash dots, and so on. Now we can talk about some of the useful ones. Let's see. In dashed lines, for example, you have three different options: hidden, hidden 2, and hidden x2. We normally use hidden 2 version based on experience. This has a better scale in your works. The next item, we can talk about centers, center 2, center 2, and center x2 again. We can use these types of line, as you can see the shape in the window here. We can use these types of line for drawing the axis as well. And again, you can use just a center 2 version. It has a better version, scale. And another kind of line, another type of line that you can use in your drawings, for example, for your axis, is dash dots. As you can see here, you can use these most of the time. So basically, for axes, you can use dash dots or center 2. Okay, so for now, let's just select dash dots, and let's see how we're going to use this. Okay, so we select this for our axis. Now let's check their settings as well. Click on show details. In here, you can, for example, change the scale of your line, and you can control it better. Okay, this was one technique. There's another technique that we can control our scale with. Let's talk about it later. For now, let's just close this. And remember, the scale that we set here, it depends on the scale of our whole project. So if we select one of the lines here, then in here, set it on the line type that we have selected before, we can see that nothing happens. Why this happened? Because we have different scales. To solve this problem, one way is to go here in show details and put this, for example, on 0.5. Let's see. We have something here, but it's not good enough. So this time, let's control the scale with the second technique. Select your line, then press Ctrl+1. In here, you can see some option called line type scale. If you check it here, yeah. For now, it's on 1. Let's put it on 0.01. Oh, it got too small, so 0.05. It's not bad, but let's try 0.06. Okay, let's see if we can work with this dash dot with a scale of 0.06. Let's see if it works. Now, to put all of the lines that we have here in our axis on one scale, we can select them all. Then we can set them in the layer as the first one, but again, we can see that they are different from the first one. Why? Because we need to change the scale again. So in here, we put the scale on 0.06 as well. Now, instead of doing all of this, we are going to work on another technique, on another command, which somehow help us to, we can say, transfer all the settings that we have set for the first line to other lines that we have in our drawings. Let's see. Again, we need to use match properties, but this time, let's use its shortcut, MA enter. Then down here, it says that we need to select a source object or a base object. And if we select this, we can see that some kind of a brush would appear next to the crosshair. Then we need to select our destination object. We can select them one by one, or we can select them all together like this. And all of them would change based on the source object that we selected first, like this, easily. And this is another very useful technique that you can use in your work if you want to speed up your work. Now, there is another point here that we need to talk about, the difference between controlling the scale by using global scale here or using, you can say, Control 1. If you change the scale here, whenever you use this line type in your drawings, your scale would be this one, would be what you set here. But if you select a line and then try to change the scale by using Control 1, for example, let's say we can put it on 1, and you can see that only this line would change. But again, if you try to change the scale from up here in global scale, let's see, you can see all of the lines had changed. So this was the difference between controlling the scale by Control 1 and global scale. Okay, now that we are done with the axes, we drew them and we control their scales as well. Let's say that we are working on something in our plan and these axes are causing some kind of a disturbance. We can easily turn their layer off because we put them in their own particular layer. So press LA off. We can just easily now click on one of the lines here and they would turn off. And you can just see the columns. Now we want to turn them on. Let's give it a command, lay, L-A-Y, on. Just like this. So this was how you can easily turn your layers on and off if you wanted to, for example, work really without any kind of disturbance. Okay, so now let's check the project to see what have we done so far. And remember, I have started from the second floor. Or no, actually, I have started from the first floor. You still have the ground floor to cover. You can do that yourselves. Let's see, we've done the axis. We have done the columns as well. Now we can start working on the walls. Before we start working on walls, we need to learn how to use another essential and useful command called offset. All right, let's see how it works. To start working on the walls, first we need to start our work with exterior walls, or these exterior lines that we have in our plan. These are the exterior walls, and they are thicker than the interior walls in our plan. These are interior walls, and their thickness is usually 10 cm. So again, if we want to work on the walls, we need to first do the exterior ones, then we move towards inside to work on the interior walls in our plan. Okay, let's open up the file here and let's start working on the walls. And before that, we're going to work on offset. What is it, what it does, and how we can use it. Okay, first of all, its icon in the box up here is this one. Let me just show it here. Okay, now we want to use the command, the shortcut command, O enter. Okay, first let's try to draw a line with a L command. And if I want to explain offset a little bit more, we can say that offset helps you to draw two parallel lines with a particular distance from each other. So if we now give it a command, O enter, down here you can see that it say to specify a distance. For example, we can set 1 meters. Then after that, we need to select an object. After selecting an object, we need to choose a site to put our offset. And we can go up, we can go down. It doesn't really matter. For example, let's put it down, and we haven't closed down the command, so let's select this one again with the same distance, 1 meters distance. This time we can put the offset up here, and just like this we can continue creating parallel lines with particular distances. We can use this command to work on some things such as staircases. Actually, let's do one as an example. We know that a usual length for a stair should be at least 1.2 meters. So let's draw a line with this length, which is a standard length for a stair. Okay, and the standard width of the stairs should be at least 30 cm. So let's just put down 30 cm. We're going to use offset, enter, and for width, for distance, we can put down 0.3 because we are working with a metric unit. Now we can just click and create our stairs. Just like this, we have 8 stairs. Now, if you want to set these staircase in another side, we can just select them and we can use copy, enter, and we can copy it to this side, just like this. Now we need to put a gap between these two sets of stairs because of the fire department rules that we have. We should have a 5 cm to 10 cm gap between two sets of stairs so that the stairs structures won't be attached to each other. So we can just select this and we can move it to this side. We can just move it for about 10 cm like this. And for the gap between the stairs, we can use a rectangle like this. Now draw these lines to close down your staircase. And now let's work on the exterior walls around the stairs. But before that, let's talk about another point. Don't forget, we would have a standing up here, so we can again use offset to draw our standing. Again, the standard distance for the standing is 1.2 meters. And after that, we can easily draw the standing using the lines because we haven't completely talked about fillet. Just like this, we can complete our standing for the stairs. And now for the walls, again, enter. The distance is 20 cm. We can put down 0.2. And we can just click on these lines towards exterior like this. And then again, you can easily connect all these lines like this. And down here again, use line to connect all the lines together. Okay, now we want to do the same thing faster, this time by using one of the subcategory items of offset. Let's see what we can do. Draw the line, 1.2 meters. Okay. Then again, enter, this time, 0.3 for the width. And if we select the line, this time we can see some items down here. Again, we have some items before we select the lines that we're going to talk about it later, and some items after we select the lines. Okay, let's see what we have. First, we have exit. Then we have undo, and after them we have multiple. Let's see what multiple does. So as you can guess through its name, basically multiple just repeats your command. You just need to set the command that you want to work with. For example, here we want to create these sets of stairs with offset. So you just need to set the command, and after that you can just easily click on your workspace. And easily like this, you can just repeat your command as many times as you want. Okay, let's do it again. First, remove all of this. Enter. Again, put the distance, set your distance on 0.30 or 3. Then when you select your line, you can just activate multiple and click. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay. We just drew 8 stairs. Now, let's just put a tension gap here. And after that, draw your line 1.2 meters. Again, enter, 0.3. Then enter. It didn't work. I'm sorry. Again, enter. Distance is okay. Enter and start clicking like this. Now again, let's use a rectangle for this gap here. Then use another rectangle, REC, and draw like this. And then our standing, again 1.2 meters upwards. And I didn't use stretch here. I just clicked on the script here and stretch our standing by 1.2 meters. Now enter. This time we want to set the offset for our walls. It was 0.2 to 20 cm towards exterior. We have some overlaps here, but don't worry about them. There won't be any problems. We're going to work on these later on. Now, we didn't draw this wall with some different lines. We used a rectangle, so as a result, I can't connect these walls like the walls before. So if you want to create some kind of a separation in our walls, for example, we have to use this command called explode. Let's take a look at its icon up here in the box. This is explode. So if you ever wanted to turn one component's shape to separate ones, you can use this item. Now, what is the shortcut key? The shortcut key for explode is X. Enter. As you can see. And now if we click on the lines, they easily get separated. And after that, you can easily, for example, connect these two down here. And you can erase this line. Because we haven't talked about trimming yet, so you just have to work with this using this technique. We're going to talk about trimming in the next session, actually. So enter, then do this, and draw another line here. Okay, so these were two very useful techniques that you can use when you want to draw the staircases. Now let's talk about another subcategory item of offset. Let's just draw our line again. Okay. Now give the command enter. And this time, before we select the lines, we can see we have some items down here. Let's see what they are. Okay, the first item that we have here, it's called through. Let's see what it does. When you activate through and then select your shape, you don't need to type down your distance, and the next time you click on the workspace, that distance would be your offset. And just like this, you can go ahead and create parallel lines, okay, like this. Another point that we can talk about is we can give a command again, then select, and we can use multiple as well. Okay, let's put some parallel lines just like this. Very, very easy. So what was the difference? The difference was we didn't have to set the distance at first, and we can just set the distances while we are drawing, or you can say setting the parallel lines in our workspace, just like this. All right, so far we have learned about offset command and its you can say subcategory items, such as multiple, through, and distance, you can say. Another command that we learned about is explode. For example, when we use polylines like this, we can easily create separation in one component shapes as what we have here, for example. If you click on each line, they become separated. Now that we learned the commands, let's start drawing the walls in our plan. Okay, let's just remove these. Okay. All right, before we start working on the walls, guys, you need to make sure that your work on all the columns and axes are accurately done. For example, you have to make sure that you have drew accurate and correct axes for all the columns in both X course and Y course, and that you haven't made any mistake, because sometimes we might have some columns too close to each other. Okay, after that, let's check our plan to see how we can start drawing the exterior walls. For example, we can start from axis F and make sure to pay attention to these places that we have no columns. You have to put the distances. So I'm just gonna work on some of the areas here, and then you can complete the rest of the plan yourselves. Let's see how we can do that. So let's open up our file from here. Then let's start. Oh, actually, remember, we are going to use polylines for drawing the walls, because when we want to set the offsets for our walls, it's easier on polylines than when we use regular lines. Okay, as we said, we're going to start from F-axis, and remember, we're going to start from the exterior edges. Before that, let's check our layer. We want to work on the wall, so we have to activate the wall layer. So again, from up here, let's activate the wall layer. Now press PL, then start from the exterior edge here and up to here. Then we go down to axis 4, then 1.2 meters down, and then 1 meters towards inside. And remember, we need to use the auxiliary lines like this. Okay, let's move on to axis 10. Again, 1 meters in, like this. Again, use the auxiliary line. And continue this to 12. All right, now Let's check our plan again. Let's see what we can do. All right, down here we have some necks as well. And yeah, we can continue like this. And all right, let's go back to the file. Okay, now for this part here, we can actually use add vertex like this. Let's activate PL again and continue our work. But before that, I need to tell you about this point here. So let's go back to the plan. Here that we have this neck here, this 1 meter neck here. Because we are working on an exterior wall, for this part, we need to subtract the wall's thickness from it. So instead of having a 1 meter neck, we would have 80 cm. So PL again, 1 meters down. Then for this side again. And here we said we're going to put 80 cm. Then we continue our work for this side. Okay. Use this auxiliary line. Okay, then the next one, it was in this course. And after that, let's see where we should put this one. Let's check the plan. All right. These walls here are completely exterior ones. So again, their thickness are 20 cm. Let's check the distance here, 1.5, all right. All right, we have this up to 6 axis, then 1.5 cm up, then to H, I, and 5 to this side. All right, so PL again, and we said we're going to draw this up to 6 axis, then 1.5 meters up, then we continue this to axis H, and after that to this side, and here up to axis 5. Okay, so as you did, we actually did the most of the plan with polylines, and you actually need to try to do that as well. Okay, now that we actually draw the exterior walls, we want to set the offsets. So and the distance for the offset was 20 cm. So 0.2, and just like this we can click towards interior. Very easy. Oh, I think we made a mistake here. Oh, okay. We didn't connect this line completely. Let me just connect this one. All right. All right, we are done with this side. Okay, guys, we have another happy mistake here. Let's see. If you take a look at here, we can see the column is outside the wall. But why this is a happy mistake? You know, because we can now use one of the commands that we learned to solve this problem. Which one? Exactly, we can use stretch. So S enter, then select this area that we want, like this. Now what happened here is that we wanted to stretch this wall here, but everything got selected, this column and the axis line as well. So to solve this problem, we can use another technique. We can hold shift in our keyboard, then we can unselect everything that we don't want to stretch here, including the column, which we can actually select like this from left to right. And then if we activate the stretch command again, we can just stretch the wall like this. And everything is okay. We just use stretch to solve our problem. Okay, let's continue our work. Let's actually try to draw the walls for another area of the plan. Here we can go on with G4 axis. Okay, It continues to 3, then moves to H, and goes on to M. So you start from G4. PL again, then from here, you start drawing. We said we're gonna continue this to 3, then from here to H, then up here to 1, and then it continues to M, move down to 4 again, and then to L. I just memorized all of this. If you think that you'll forget anything, just check your plan. Now to put the offset, O, enter, point 2, and click towards interior. So just like this, you can easily draw your exterior walls of your plan. And here you can easily use a line to complete this. Okay. And again, don't worry about things like overlapping and stuff like that, because you need to learn how to trim your work after you draw your plan and walls. For example, for places like this, you can easily use trim to modify these places like this. So now what you can do here is you can actually go on and complete the rest of the plan yourself. I'm sure that you've done this for the access as well, and do this for the ground floor as well. This is the first floor, and remember, we are completing a project, so we need to learn everything step by step and together, because our work is project oriented. All right, we are done for the day. So I'll see you in a next session. Goodbye and good luck.